Okay, so I believe we're live. Yeah, awesome. If you guys just go to the Makerspace page, that's where it's being broadcasted at. So uh, share the page with your friends if you want them to watch, I guess. Otherwise, I'm ready to start rolling whenever you guys are. I'll even start with my project.
Okay.
Awesome. So I should probably screen share. That makes sense. Right now they're just seeing names, and that's not good. All right, now we're sharing. Now we're in business. Let's get rid of those suggesteds. There we go. So this actually came up in my Facebook feed as like a Facebook memory because this was the first hackathon that I ever went to 4 years ago. And man, I like look back on this project and just think to myself, like, I had no idea what I was doing then. I just kind of like operated off of like what everyone else already knew and went, yeah, you sound like you know what you're talking about. Let's do that. And what this project was originally supposed to be was like you hit a script and it would automatically generate a dungeon for you. And it would then solve the dungeon to make sure that the person using to make sure that it's a valid dungeon, basically. And this could be used for like D&D. This could be used for like dungeon crawling games. It was a map maker, basically. And what it actually became was something like wildly different. I'll let this play. No audio though, because this is at like a live event with people, and the audio quality is just garbage. So I don't want to bombard your ears with that. Right. So that little box with lights is actually the controller, and the lights will signify like, is there a wall next to you? Like the color that the lights turned showed you, is it a wall? Is it a path? Is it you? The two green lights in the middle are who you are, and what this is showing very blurrily. Hold on. Right. So this right here was the terminal feed because it was like an augmented reality game of sorts. Whereas like the lights on the controller itself only gave you a piece of the picture, and then the console described the room to you. So using a finite state machine, we kind of like made each room its own state. And as you traversed through the maze using the buttons on the controller, not only would the lights update and show you where the walls are around you, the terminal would give you a more detailed description of what you see around you, kind of like a dungeon master would. And there we go. That was some crisp pixels. Can we get that again? Cool. So Arduino dungeon. So you just had to navigate your way through the dungeon. Like this is where we stopped. We had like gotten rid of the random element entirely. Like it only generates the same dungeon every time. And that was mostly due to like time restraints because at a hackathon you only have so many hours, and if you don't get what you need to done in those hours, then you just kind of explain to the judges, oh, here's what we were going to do if we had 36 more hours. And let's see here, terminal, that's what the controller looks like, and the wiring is an absolute mess, obviously, but you can see the Arduino Mega there. It's the blue chip at the bottom, and that is what was driving the signals as well as interpreting what the rooms were. I'm pretty sure this was actually all written in C or C sharp, whatever the Arduino variant is. And this just has them going through the maze and explaining the different states. Like if you die, meaning you ran into a wall or you walked into a room that was just a bottomless pit, the lights would flash and the game would restart. If you, there were also special event rooms where if you walked into a room, all the lights would turn off, and in the terminal, it would say you're in a dark room, you don't know where anything is, and you would just randomly select a direction to go in. And God, it like that was the coolest aspect, and that was the wow factor for the judges. But we whereas we made like a fun little game as a learning experience, everyone made stuff that was like really impressive. So while we got them on the wow factor, when they started asking like practical questions like how will this impact the job market, we all just kind of like stood there like deer in headlights. Like job market, people have jobs. Never even considered because we were off in our own little world this entire time.
Oh, real quick, Anthony, is Jarvis trying to get in?
Oh, let me check. It would send me a notification in the bottom right if so.
Oh, okay.
I'll actually stop share and double check. Oh, no, it didn't tell me. Thanks, Zoom. Very cool.
I
You
got
know
you,
what?
Jarvis. Go on
There
though.
we
Thank you.
Cool. Sorry about that, guys. I was screen sharing and it doesn't pop up in the corner that you're in the weight room if I'm screen sharing. So that was me bad. Right. So this is us explaining to the judge that we actually wrote the map out. Like the map is just a bunch of squares with letters in them, and then we determine what the letters meant. And this is him using that map to get to the end, because I think there's like a special event that happens when you do finally leave the dungeon. I think this was actually the last hackathon that Joe ran. Do you remember seeing this project, Joe?
I don't remember much from that day. There were a lot of projects.
There it is. The lights went out because they're in a dark room. All right, and they didn't die. I think there was also a hard mode that we programmed where if you ran into a wall, you also died, but then we later took that out because there goes, he won. And it does this neat little sequence. Yeah, that's I can't remember that guy's name, but he just when I asked him for his name, he just said he was Cash Money. So yeah, that's how deranged we were by the end of the event. Couldn't even remember our own names. As for the code, still working on recovering that. I have it in dev post somewhere. I just have to actually like go looking for it, which whenever I remember it, I don't have time to. And whenever I do have time to, that's not the thing I'm thinking of. So first hackathon project, really rough on the edges, had no idea what I was doing, but God, it was a blast. Uh, do you guys have any questions for me?
Not specifically, no.
Yeah,
What what uh what issues did you run into during the hackathon? Like, was there anything like major that came up that it's like a big hurdle or?
I think the hurdle was we had an EE major and we had a computer science major, and they ended up taking on opposite roles than what we would expect. Like the electrical engineer was doing the programming, and the computer science major was doing the wiring. And I think they did that for just kind of the experience aspect. But I feel like if they would have done what they were, already pretty efficient at, we could have gotten a lot more done. And we lost a good chunk of code on the second day, and we ended up spending the entirety of Saturday night reprogramming it. So version control is important, folks. Back to your code.
Did you ever go back and like try updating it to make it a little bit more modern? Is I guess the easiest way to say it, because I've definitely gone back on old projects and tried touching them up over the years.
I've thought about it. I think the main two main blocks there that have prevented me from going back and doing it is I would want to have access to the old code, so I'd have to go and get the code. Because I don't want to try and program it from scratch when I barely understood it to begin with. The programming aspect was always spooky. But another blockage was I never really bought any of the hardware after the fact. Like all of the hardware you saw there came from the hardware lab. So we had to dismantle that and give it back. But now that I have access to the tools and resources that I do, I can totally go back and like at least make the wiring look less hectic because it looked more like it looked more like a bomb than it did a game with all the wires sticking out. All right. Let me see. Is there anyone else in the waiting room? Am I neglecting anyone else? No? Awesome. So, did anyone else want to present next?
I'm gonna go ahead and try throwing myself in just because I found it's not 5:45. I have to go at 6, so I've got 15 minutes here, and I can do that in 15 minutes.
I believe in
Terrific.
you.
So I've got 2 projects, neither of which, unfortunately, I can get to work today. But I guess the one I really wouldn't be able to. But it says I can't share my screen. I was gonna try showing off just
I
not
got
even
you.
the
Hold on.
code, but just so that we could see what this possibly looks like.
Hold on. I got you. All participants can share. There we go. All right, try it again.
Cool. Okay, that's screen. There we go. And we're gonna ignore my wallpaper just because I don't feel a need to make this full screen. So this was basically our version of Tamagotchi. This was the very first project I ever did where I didn't have any programming experience whatsoever. So what I did on here, I don't even remember, unfortunately. All I remember is that it was just a really good excuse to stay up late with everybody. And we had a lot of fun doing it. I know you're seeing these 2 Python scripts here, which you would hope run the game, but unfortunately it doesn't. Basically, this was just a series of about 20 different animations, I think, in total we had in here. I think some of them have been lost, but we had the GitHub Octocat as our Tamagotchi, and you had to feed him, play with him. There was like one little mini game where this med pack came in, but I don't even know what the heck it was. But oh, wrong screen. Oh, it doesn't even play. Oh no, that's really upsetting. Oh, that's why, because this was a series of images that have been decompressed, I think. That's unfortunate. Oh no, this one's going. But so whenever you first get him, he'll just be, hanging out and stuff like that. But then we have a couple of things where you can play, which this looks really bad now, but I assure you it looked normal at the time. And the fun part about this was we put it all on a Raspberry Pi with a screen on it, so that you could actually put this in your pocket. It was about the size of a phone case, like a phone, and we 3D printed out a case with it and everything. And unfortunately, we never got a good video of it, and we also broke it probably about an hour before we were supposed to present it. So we didn't even really get to present it to anybody except for everybody who came over before we actually tried finishing it and saw it, said, wow, it looks amazing. I can't wait to see the finished version. And they never got to see it.
Man, I think I remember that day. Now, wasn't it a hardware issue that was causing it not to function, or did you guys never find out?
What it was whenever you boot up a Raspberry Pi, it tries taking you to a desktop. So we said, okay, well, rather than having to plug in a mouse and keyboard every time you wanted to turn this on the Raspberry Pi, we tried writing some code that would just immediately run this Python script and start the game up full screen. And somehow, whenever we wrote that file, whenever we turned on the computer, it got completely frozen and it would not stop freezing every time we turned it on. So we had to rewipe the whole thing and flash it again. And it said it was going to take about 2 hours to finish flashing with 1 hour left in the competition. So
Yeah, that can be rough, and it doesn't help you now because this is 4 years later. But I don't think at the time the Raspberry Pi Foundation had like an official flashing software, whereas they do now, and it only takes like 5 minutes because they've gotten this like down pat. And well, it was you guys didn't want to use a headless operating system. You didn't want like to have any kind of embedded system in there. Like, what was the advantages to having an operating system?
I'll be honest. See, this is back, what is this, 2016, I guess? So I don't remember fine details like that. I think we kind of just started putting it on the Raspberry Pi, which, like, looking back, this would have made more sense to put on maybe even an Arduino, just because it was a very simple thing. We didn't need it to do a whole lot. It was just kind of a couple numbers and meters and playing a bunch of different animations. But we had a Raspberry Pi at the time and said, hey, this sounds cool. Let's do it. And we just didn't like the idea of like, we wanted to be able to turn it on in front of the judges and have it just instantly be playing the game. And it would be like a secret that it was running on Windows and everything else, or whatever Raspberry
Nice.
Pi's default operating system was at the time.
A few of these guys will tell you I've had a lot of projects like start on a Raspberry Pi and end on a Windows computer, mostly because I get fed up with like Raspbian nuance. And I haven't really gotten into the world of like, can I run this on a Raspberry Pi without an operating system? But as I get like more in the robotics, I'm starting to think to myself like, do we need operating systems? Let's just make it all analog, man. Let's go old. Let's go back to the good old days.
Was this
Oh,
project at HackYSU?
Yes, it was.
The HackYSU with all the 3D printers, right?
Yes.
Gotcha. I remember the phone case.
Yeah,
Right.
it was a lot of fun. We spent a long time with a Dremel and a X-Acto knife trying to carve it out to be the right shape because we printed it out 3 times because this also had a bunch of custom buttons on it. Like it was a fully functional device that you would just put in your pocket. We had a battery tucked in underneath of it from one of my old cell phones. It would have been a really cool project.
I remember that. Mostly the chaos from everyone trying to 3D print different things, and then also having similar like the 3D print not coming out great and needing to resort to drastic measures to making it better.
Yeah, I think somehow none of us got cut by a X-Acto knife despite spending at least half an hour just trying to trim plastic with one. So, and this other project that I did, just because I figure I might as well mention both. I don't have anything to show for it either, unfortunately. But if you guys have ever used walkie-talkies, this shouldn't sound like a foreign concept. We made typey-talkies. And this is actually, we got second place last year with it. I had to think about when I was here. And
Was that 2020?
yes. Yes, we're
Wild.
a solid week before YSU said, hey, we're shutting down the school for a while, guys.
That's before places stopped being a thing.
Yeah, which it's still absolutely bizarre to think that we had, the gathering of a good 100-something people. And then by the end of the next month, it was, you're not allowed to go to school anymore. That's too dangerous. But that's just timing. But so typey talkies. This one was conceived by Caleb, who is not here today. I think he was just busy. Maybe didn't see a message. Who knows? But this was using a mesh radio network to send signals to each other in messages. So the idea was we were using a Arduino Nano, I believe, which is really tiny, like probably smaller than your thumb if you hold that up. And we did the same thing. I think we put a screen on it. I'm trying to remember how we even got messages across on it. But you could send a message out using it. It had a radio transmitter on it. And we tested it across the width of the whole room. So it worked for at least 50 feet, probably more, but trying to go through the walls and everything else was getting a little weird. So, but the way that it was set up was that whenever one device receives a message, each message has a unique ID on it that's generated based on the contents of the code, who sent it, and the time. It would store that in a list and then send out that message to everybody else again. But if you already got that message more than twice, you wouldn't send it out again. So in theory, it was supposed to be like an infinitely scalable network where one would receive a message, shout it out to everybody around it. They would all shout it out and keep on going in a cycle to get a message over a conceivably infinite distance to send out a message. So the one use that people thought of it for would be it would be pretty cool to use in like an emergency situation. If we had ones that we knew went like a couple 100 feet for sure, you could have like an emergency rescue team out on like a not I don't want to say a demolition site, but in like a natural disaster or something like that. If there were messages that needed to get out, one person could send it and everybody would get a copy of the message without relying on like a cell signal or anything like that, because each device powered itself.
It's like the Wi-Fi powered Amber Alert.
Yeah, basically. Just a much smaller range and not on the well, like it technically could be on the national scale, I suppose, if it worked as well as we hoped it did. But
If everyone chips in and gets a transceiver.
yeah, I mean, I think we actually broke one of our devices because I think we had 3. But I think we only ever got it running on 2. But the way that it was programmed was signal, cache it, that it signals specific information, then shout it back out. And we knew that at least 2 could talk to each other. And since they weren't actually talking to each other, they were just shouting in general. It should have been self-replicating, but there's no way to really test it, unfortunately. But yeah, it was a fun little project in 36 hours. And I remember at least
Nice.
one of those nights was spent at about midnight the night before it was due. At like I think it's 9 in the morning. And I remember staying up until 5 a.m. working on it. So
What
Nice.
what was your biggest hurdle on the project, other than obviously blowing away the pie an hour before the end?
that's technically a different project. This was 2 separate ones.
Oh
But,
yeah. Or I guess both of them. But
So on the one with where we blew out the Raspberry Pi at the end, I think it was just finding a consistent way to save game states, I guess, and like keep track of everything, which now that I think about it now, that's something that I feel like I'd have down in just a little bit, but I wasn't even done with my first series of classes yet at the time. So, I'm 2 months into programming and trying to make a game in a language that I had never used. So I didn't do too much on that one, unfortunately. And I also remember getting the images to load was really hard. But on the radio one, it was definitely coming up with something between a way to give every message a unique identifier that couldn't possibly be replicated, I guess. And then storing that, because the first time we would shout a message, the whole screen would just instantly fill up with the message on repeat, because we didn't think, oh, this isn't going to send out exactly one time. It's going to be a constant shout, it's going to bounce off the walls and like different signals are going to kind of overlap each other. So I think we spent at least a few hours just trying to tweak code so that we wouldn't receive the message 100 times, but would receive it at least once.
nice.
So I'm sorry, I dipped out for a minute, so I'm not sure if this question was already asked. What made you choose Wi-Fi as the communication protocol?
Which I don't know if it was technically Wi-Fi or if it actually counted as radio. Let me see if, yeah, we didn't actually write down what it was, but it's just because you could power it. You didn't have to be connected to anything else, and the Arduino Nano could power it on its own. So the idea was it's an entirely network independent portable device that you could use to send messages. If you had a friend who lived across the street from you, conceivably you guys could never have a cell phone but still text each other with it, which nowadays probably you have a computer or something, but maybe if you're a middle school kid and you got grounded, you could just pull out the secret typey talkie.
Yeah, if you get grounded and you got to find a way to text back your high school crush. I mean, that's one way to do it.
Yeah.
Picto chat on the DS.
Picto chat.
Yep.
Man,
Coming
I remember that wouldn't reach across the street for me though.
coming from, I guess, security perspective, was that transfer in just like plain text, or was there any sort of obfuscation of the message before it was sent over?
I'm pretty sure we ended up. I'm trying to see. I'm like actually looking through the code now to see if I can find anything that's.
Yeah. Like if I had a road typey talkie in the middle, could I like listen to your messages in between?
I'm going to say probably because I think in general the way that we designed ours was, uh, it would be something that would be used not generally just for talking between two people. It would be used overall just as a big message to shout out to everybody, almost like Twitter,
Yeah.
but only locally.
Local Twitter.
And I'm looking at it now, and it definitely looks like we're just doing like toString text message right to serial. Yeah, so it looks to me like this was written in plain text just because we were like, well, we want everybody to see this. Though I'm sure we technically could have made things more private. Yeah, no, it's definitely plain text.
Who needs
Message to
security?
display
Yeah,
in
yeah.
string. Yeah, that's not secure.
I mean, still
Well-
doing like that level of program after 2 months is still impressive. It's like I'm trying to think of things that like if I were to be in that situation, like what I could potentially like add to that project to maybe take it like another step further. And encryption would be like the first thing that would come to my mind at least, or some sort of handshake setup.
Yeah, here's the I'm just gonna post it in our chat, I guess. But there's the GitHub link for it, which as you can see, we have not touched it since 10:13 a.m. on the day of the hackathon, which that was 2019. Because now that I think about it, last year it was not our competition year. I was already graduated last year. I was in graduate school, but I was graduated from undergraduate.
So just real quick. So when you guys post these links in the chat here, they will disappear when the Zoom call's done. So do you guys mind if I like copy and paste them into a notepad for later usage and maybe free exposure? Do you guys care if people look at your repos?
I keep the ones that I want hidden. So it
Yeah,
should be all
unfortunately,
good.
my repo will be eventually H&I property, so I'll have to keep that one private. But I could still show it in its current state. So
Sure. Like for presentation purposes, whatever you're comfortable putting on the screen, go ahead. But if you put it in the chat, I'm going to feel the need to archive it simply because it's so volatile.
yep.
No. I mean, like I said, that's been on my public GitHub for 2 years now. I don't think anyone's tried stealing it. Not that I don't think we particularly care, but
It feels like it'd make for a good open source exercise. So yeah, you'd be doing some good if someone did try to steal it,
yeah, no, it's probably for the best.
stealing it for the right purposes.
Oh, let me try finding my pause button. That is my alarm telling. There we go. Okay, that is my alarm telling me I gotta get going. Unfortunately, truly was a good moment. I might be able to come back on later. I'll have to see.
All right.
Cool.
Well, thank you. Thank you for coming in.
Yeah, it's for Sean.
Absolutely. Hope to see you guys all around.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
So
And,
I could present my thing from a past life.
go for it.
It's so this is, let me present here. Actually, I don't really need to present until later. So this is my favorite hackathon project I've ever worked on, hands down. And it's called Houdini. And we made it at Boilermake, which is Purdue's hackathon in 2016. It was my buddy Louise from college and I. He is like an iOS app developer and still is, I think. And so we ended up kind of pairing our talents in that respect. So Houdini is basically a way to get out of awkward conversations. So for some socially awkward people, it's hard to be like in a conversation with someone you don't want to talk to and then tell them like, hey, I gotta go, or come up with an excuse. And like some people just ignore the excuses and keep talking, whatever. So it's a way to escape the awkward conversations without, kind of saying it up front. So what you do is you install the Houdini app on your phone, and it connects to your Apple Watch. And what happens is you get into an conversation and you press a button on your phone, or sorry, on your Apple Watch. And the button sends a save me request out to 10 other Houdini users at random. And the first Houdini user to accept that save me request automatically has a call placed on their phone to the person who initiated the request. And it calls them to like get them out of the conversation. So the person like presses the button on their watch, and then, you know, within 10, 15, 20 seconds, they get a call on their phone. They're like, oh, I'm sorry, I got a call here. I'm gonna have to take this. And then boom, they're out of the conversation. So the way we did it was it wasn't just that you get a call. It's not only does it call someone, is that the person who initiated the request, when they press that button on their Apple Watch, it creates a contact record in your phone once another person accepts the request.
Do you have
So
do you have something to share here, like code or
I
a
do.
slideshow or?
I do. I had no screenshots.
So
Yeah, but I'll share my screen here. Houdini. And I'm not even going to try to go through the iOS app code because I don't know what it's even going to be like. But I can go through the server code. And basically what happens is like anybody can sign up. Once a request is placed for you to be saved, it's almost, I actually documented this API really, really well. If I could spell request. So it's this method called like request phone call, and it sends up their phone. They send up their phone number. It kind of generates like a waiting for calls record. And then at random, it finds a user that is available. And it finds 10 users that are available, and it sends them like a push notification. And I used whatever agent is, I think it APN agent. I guess it was like something I implemented custom, but it sends an Apple push notification to them. And they click the push notification. Once they do that, they initiate this accept call request thing. And it sets them as unavailable. It sets the waiting for calls queries up, and then it sets the phone calls accepted. I don't know. I haven't gone through this code in years. And then it initiates a call request, or initiates the actual call in the iOS app itself. So yeah, that's pretty much it. And then the benefit there is like, why would people use this? Like, why would people be available for calls? Well, you get paid for it. It's almost like Uber for awkward conversations. So you just like kind of set yourself available on the app. You know, you're just hanging out, doing nothing on a Friday, Saturday afternoon, and you just get some push notifications like, hey, so and so needs saved here. I forget the actual terminology I used. I think it's in the app code somewhere. Let me see if I can find it. I don't even know.
When did you make this?
I made this at Boilermaker Hackathon in 2016. Oh, I don't even know. I don't even know what's going on in here. It's all Objective-C, and I can't read that. Like, there's no way.
No one can. That's why they need Swift.
Yep. Well, Louise loves it. He was having a great time. So I made the server part of it. I made all this. He made all of the app, and we just kind of hooked it up together. So the thing here is we did have to get some help from the Apple devs at Boilermaker, because we were going for like best Apple Watch prize. So we'd never developed on an Apple Watch, and it was fairly new at that point. So that was kind of a hurdle we ended up trying to get over. The server development, this actually was the smoothest development I've ever done at a hackathon. Like, I encountered no roadblocks through this entire development process. I wrote all of it out, and it just worked on the first time. It was kind of amazing. The app development was a little bit worse. So yeah, what ended up happening is we submitted it for the Apple Watch prize, and we demoed it as much as we could. It kind of broke down. The Stripe functionality broke down. I wanted to demo that specifically, so I had to comment out that code. If you saw that, like in the routes file. So for some reason, I couldn't get Stripe charging to work. I don't know why. But we demoed it, and people did not like it. Like it was like there were some people that were like, "Oh, okay, that's interesting," but like most people didn't like it. We actually had one person come up to us and like ask us what we developed, and we demoed it for him and everything, and he got like this twisted look on his face. He's like, "That is the rudest thing I've ever heard of. Why would anybody ever use this? This is horrible." Like, and he's just like going on us, and then he walks away, and I looked at Louise. I'm like, "How much you want to bet that's the guy you would use that call on? Use this app on?" So we were laughing about that. So it kind of, didn't sit well with some people, and I think it was the people who you would use this on. So, yeah, I thought it was great. I would totally use this.
I definitely would too.
Yeah, I think it's great. Like I would use this just as someone to get like to call someone, like if I'm just hanging out, whatever, and I get a call request, I just press the push notification. It automatically makes the call. And then you just like have a fake conversation with them for however long they need to have it for,
So
And,
it's kind of like Omegle, but like instead of going on Omegle and having to sift through all the strangers, it's just a phone call.
Well, it's almost that, but like you can't use Omega to get out of an awkward conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
And it's discreet.
You think of like women who are trying to get out of a bad date or something.
Exactly. That
Like,
was
that
actually
would be a primary use case.
So that we actually pitched that. We were like, if you're on a bad date, this could be very useful for like, I just need someone to call me, because that's always like, people are like, oh, I'm getting a phone call, or I'm expecting a phone call. But like, what if you actually got that phone call?
Yeah.
And then you could pretend it's like an emergency or something. You'd be like, oh, darn, so-and-so's in the hospital. Dang, all right, I'll be right there. And we'd said stuff like that. And I think that's why like people didn't like it. So like, how could you do something like that? How dare you? Like, well,
How dare you?
people fake it all the time. We're just actually doing it.
All right. Well, that's definitely one solution.
Yeah. Yeah, needless to say, we didn't win any awards for it. In fact, the Apple devs didn't really like it either, which I thought was hilarious. Like we were explaining to them the app. They're like, they were basically like almost implying we're gonna help you because we have to, but like we really don't like this. And we really don't think this is like I thought it was the best developed Apple Watch app. I'm also biased, but I thought it was like the most well-developed app using Apple Watch at the hackathon. But like what's Apple gonna do? Give us a prize for that app? Like that like most people hate.
Yeah.
That's not very on brand.
It's definitely not. But
out of curiosity, what was your competition looking like? Like what other Apple Watch apps did it
I
have
don't
to go
know.
up against?
I don't remember. Most of them are just like dashboards, like I don't know, like you could see what, the weather or something like that, like some really basic stuff. I thought like we had a really well integrated, like, yes, it is Apple Watch, but like it's also all this other stuff. It's an iPhone app, and then also a backend powering it and everything. And we tried going for the Azure prize by just hosting it on Azure. We also didn't get that prize.
It feels fleshed out, like it's the whole 9 yards. It's
And it
just
worked.
that people didn't like the premise of the whole 9 yards. They wanted the 3 yards.
Yeah, they didn't like it, but I'm very proud of it. It's my favorite app I've ever worked on at a hackathon.
Well,
I say
everyone's
this
excited.
unironically. This is genuinely the greatest idea that mankind has ever had.
Thank you.
And I would use this every day.
See what I mean? Some people
point
you
blank.
either love it or hate it. Like that's just what it comes down to. And the people who hate it are probably the ones it's being used on. So like that's just really all it is.
Yeah, that is a great project idea.
And it's reasonable. It's only 50 cents a minute we were charging or something like that. And we took like a 5% service fee or something, super low.
So it goes without saying, are you going to revisit this project? And if you do, like what changes would you make? Or is it that perfect where you wouldn't change anything?
That's the
think I
next
like-
startup.
Yes, that's the next startup. Chris is going to be the CEO of this one.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'd revisit it ever, maybe, but I'd have to have, like, I think I would hit up Louise and be like, hey, do you want to update all of this Objective-C code to use the new iOS version, and then all of your Apple Watch code? And then I'd have to update all of this code, or we'd just end up rewriting it, which is probably the easier thing. But I don't know if I'd revisit it. I kind of like the nostalgia of it and talking about it in the past tense. And just like, I might actually archive this repository.
Yeah, because
Just make
there's
it
like,
read-only.
if people don't like it, you can always say, oh, well, it was 2016. I was working on it way back then. There's different connotation if you say that you're working on it right now. And then
Yeah.
that just gets their blood boiling.
Yeah.
Did you think about you could update? I was watching on the Facebook, but I popped in just because I was wondering if you could maybe update it. It would be better received if you made it more targeted towards women feeling unsafe.
That's a really good idea.
Kind of change rather than you want to get out of an uncomfortable conversation and make you sound like an asshole, kind of more like if that's how it was received, I mean, by certain people, rebranding it, if you will, as like is your Tinder date not who he said he was? Are you feeling unsafe?
I think you're right.
That could be a better angle for it.
I think you're right. I think it purely came down to a marketing problem. We're tech people, and we were just like, put it bluntly, we're like, yeah, we don't like awkward conversations. We're just gonna try to get out of them. But yeah, I think if you did market it like, do you feel unsafe? Well, but it's not like an emergency, but you feel unsafe, you're on a bad date, something like that.
Yeah, it could maybe get just be a little bit better received with a rebranding into more of like a safety app.
That really has me thinking now. Because of that, I kind of want to revisit this now.
Out of curiosity, if you do revisit it with the technologies that we have now, would you still have to do it in Objective-C?
No,
or are there better alternatives?
I'd use React Native. I wouldn't use Objective-C because I would want to make it cross-platform too, or Android and iOS rather.
No, that's thinking smart. That's thinking broad horizon.
Yeah, and the back end, I don't know if I'd do it in Express again, maybe, but I don't think it ends up mattering. I'd probably redesign the entire database structure. It's it's the product of a hackathon, so it's not the best.
It's the product of not sleeping in 48 hours, running purely off of 5 Red Bulls, and all of your partners just dropped.
Oh yeah. I maybe got like 4 hours of sleep that whole weekend.
Did I ever tell you guys about the time where I went to a hackathon and my partners went to New York City?
What?
Yeah.
Was that Yale?
Was the hackathon in New York City?
I mean, it wasn't that close to New York City. Sorry for interrupting.
Which hackathon was that?
That was Yale.
How far away is that from New York City?
It's like an hour and a half.
Dude, it's Yale. They could have just taken an Uber and put it on the credit card.
Yeah.
I mean, they did.
Yeah.
And they said they'd come back and help finish the project, and they didn't.
That's amazing.
Oh gosh.
See ya.
Well, if you're watching this now, you know who you are, and shame on you.
Shame on you. How dare you?
All right.
Yeah.
Overall, really cool project, Jarvis. The fact that it's so fleshed out makes me hopeful for its return.
Yeah, I kind of want to revisit it now because now that the idea was given of the new marketing. So
yeah, I think that's the best marketing use case is But obviously, there'd be some other hurdles you'd have to do, like vetting the people who sign up to receive the calls. But
Yeah.
like something along those lines. We're like marketing towards like getting people out of like bad situations type deal, specifically women. But yeah.
I just had a really great that brings up a good point because you don't want to receive a call and it's just like some call bot that's
Yeah.
like, we've been trying to reach you about your car's extended warranty.
Yeah. Or like someone who's even worse on the other end of the line, the person you're hanging out with in person.
Yeah.
All right, so full disclosure, we do have IRL Makerspace Night as well as Makerspace Night Online, and we have a visitor here with us in the lab.
Hey, it's Ralph.
Hey,
Hey, Wes. Tell
Yo.
Nick to get his ass down here.
Wait, who?
Nick.
Nick?
Which Nick?
Oh, there's so many, huh?
Yeah, please clarify. I'm also confused.
Which one am I talking about? Which one did you know?
I know a lot of Nicks.
That's the problem. Like when you said Nick, I thought you were talking about Nick Bates, but that can't be it. He doesn't get around that much.
You'd be surprised, actually.
Okay.
But anyways.
Yeah, Andrew just got done presenting his project on an Apple Watch app that helps you get out of awkward conversations. Put out a
Not bad. Not bad at all, actually.
Yeah. Basically has someone call you and go, oh, I got to take this, and then you just leave. I like it. I
See,
like it.
unfortunately, I don't use any Apple products except my iPhone, which is mandated for work.
Well, there's your target market, Jarvis. Make that Android version.
there it is. Hey, that's what I mentioned though. It was got to make it cross-platform. And honestly, my final thing here is that if I really thought about it, like in redoing it, I probably would just get rid of the Apple Watch part. That was purely there for trying to get an Apple price.
What
for the hackathon.
Hey, out of curiosity, what do you plan on using to make it cross-platform, or are you just going to actually program it in each individual language?
Well, now you're doing it.
Well, I still don't know if I'm doing it. I'm tossing the idea around. But
okay,
yeah,
sorry.
I mean,
what would you use?
yeah, I was thinking just using like React Native or something. I mean, nothing is very platform specific. Like not even really. The only really thing is mildly like push notifications, but even then you could just use a service for that. So I just end up using React Native or something like that.
Fair enough.
And hopefully never have to write any native code. I don't think I would though.
No, I ask because one of the other projects that I've got and this has been kind of an ongoing one, is with one of the radio stations I deal with, Hive 365. I'm still involved there as one of their developers. Now, mind you, the amount of actual programming I do, not that much. At this point, I'm more like project manager than anything. But we just completely redesigned the Android app, which that thing needed an overhaul since, I don't know, like 2015. And the next step we wanted to do with the next major version was make it cross-platform and bring it to iOS as well. Because right now it's just Android, built it in Android Studio. And we were thinking of actually moving towards the idea of using, a web app, PWA, to be able to handle both iOS, Android, and maybe even convert the web player to that as well. So I'm kind of looking for some sources to kind of know which kind of directions to go with that.
Yeah, I haven't worked extensively in app development land. That's just something I just hear mentioned a lot. I know Joe's worked with it a lot in the past and has recommended it to me as a solution. So yeah, that's probably what I ended up picking up. What's that?
I've made 2 apps.
I mean, that's more than most people have made. So there you go.
I made a couple of apps, but I didn't even use Android Studio. I used something called App Inventor from Google at MIT, and it's like Scratch for app inventing or app making, whatever you call it.
Why did I never see this until now?
All right. So Does anyone else want to talk about a project they've worked on at any other hackathons?
Oh, that,
I've got a project, not something from a hackathon, but
Let her rip. I don't mind. Is
okay.
anyone else horribly offended that he didn't make it at a hackathon?
I think I've only really been to one hackathon as like an advisor. That was it. I wasn't like actually participating in the hackathon. But nonetheless, I'll share my project here.
I mean, when you're hacking every day, hackathons are just an average Tuesday.
Yeah, pretty much. Let me share my screen. So, before I go, I guess let's start sharing first. So, the thing that I kind of been working on for the past couple of weeks, I think, was my company has been looking for some sort of new proxy solution, something to help like block traffic if it's bad traffic or people are going to bad sites at work, like pornographic or like just not allowed websites. Some companies block like Facebook and stuff like that too, like some social media. And one of the things that some of the proxy solutions offer was the ability to set up a custom block page. And the reason why I guess you would use one of these is because the default block page from some of these proxy solutions is kind of bland looking. It's not branded at all. It's very like a static look, not that great. And it sometimes doesn't have a lot of features either. So one of the companies we were looking at was missing some of the functionality of some of the other ones we were looking at, which was actually putting in a request to whitelist a site. So let's say you like went to a website that was blocked and you wanted it whitelisted. There was no easy way to do that from the web page. Herein lies where I made this app to do this for us. So I'll show you what it is first, and then I'll kind of go into the code a bit. So I have here just an example of the block. Everyone can see my screen, right? I should probably check that first.
Yep.
Okay. So basically what happens is when you go to most of these proxy solutions and you get blocked, if you set up the custom page, what they do is they send you over. They'll send you over to whatever URL you set up as a custom page, and they'll also attach a GET request with a bunch of variables in it. So you can see all these variables up here that are after this is just my local box, but after this question mark here, all these variables that are put into here. And the main goal of my thing was to parse those and to either submit a ticket to our system or shoot off an email or both, which is I'm going to end up doing here. But so what it does is when you go to it and you get blocked, I just generated one of these. It'll give you the website you're blocked for going to. It'll give you the reason why you're blocked and a little bit more specific. And then it also spits out this sentence here, not allowed to browse weapons, bombs category, which is passed over in the URL. So I figured I'd show it there. But and then it also gives you a little box to enter a reason if you wanted to whitelist it. To say, I need to go to the site for research. My boss told me to go here to look at designs or something. And I just use guns.com. That's just a standard one that we use at my company as a blocked website. So that's why I'm using this one here. But so clicking submit will send you over the second page, which pulls all the information, all of the information from that old URL bar, and it posts it to this one, which it'll then display to you. It'll say, thank you for submitting the website to be whitelisted. Here's the data being sent. Gives the reason you typed in and the detailed description, and then all the information that was up in the URL bar, because I plan on sending all that over. And you'll receive an email at test@example.com from the service desk once they can handle your request. And then let me see here. 1 second.
I bet test@example.com gets a lot of spam email.
Oh
all the
yeah,
time.
I'm sure.
Yep.
So just to show you, I actually set it up so it will email out too. And this is what the email looks like. So when it popped up, for instance, this would go to the service desk email, and they would say, oh, someone submitted a whitelist request, and it gives them all of the information that was entered in, plus all the information that was pulled from the GET request. So it's basically like fully featured block page with emails, notifications to our service desk. And then our ticketing system actually also uses email to submit tickets. So I'll set up a secondary email that'll have the correct formatting to just create a ticket right off of this request. So I don't have that part done yet, but so looking at the code here, let me go to the main block page. So I use Python and Flask for kind of the back end for no reason other than I wanted to do it in Python just to flex on one of my coworkers who always talks about Perl. So I needed to kind of show him why Python's better, even though we just joke back and forth to each other about Python and Perl. But
Yeah, but Python isn't better, so.
I would just like to make fun of each other back and forth. But I wanted to learn Flask and kind of just like dip my toe in, I guess. But I have the block pages set up. I also have a 500 page setup. So if you were to go, to this page with no request after it, with no GET request, it'll just give you a generic error page. We apologize, something went wrong, blah, blah, blah. So I have that set up, which is down below, and it's a page over here. The email. So this may look a little dirty, but from what I've seen, this is actually the appropriate way to do this. When sending out the email, if you want it to be a proper HTML formatted email, so it looks nice like this rather than just plain text, you have to hand do all of the CSS in the actual HTML. You can't like pull in, say, Bootstrap as like a wrapper or anything. You have to like hand do all of it in the actual HTML code. But so
Isn't email styling the best?
oh my God, it's great. Let me tell you.
Yeah.
So it was pretty dirty, but yeah, I made this an F string, which allows me to put variables in it. So I just did that. And then I'll scroll down. You can see I have variables that are put into here. So it just pulls the variable and slaps it into the HTML for those. And then if you go to the base URL, it loads this page here, index.html. So I go to that one, and you can kind of see that it's pulling arguments. Actually, let me go back real quick. This args, request args, is pulling the GET request arguments, and I actually print them to the CLI down here. So you can see this dictionary down here with all these values. But yeah, so it pulls those in, it displays them on the page, and then the submit form sends you over to this whitelist.html, which pulls all that information back according to the Python. And I also set up a base page, which has the base formatting for the web pages. So if I just include on each one of my pages, if I just include at the very top a block up here, like block title and extends base.html, it'll just extend the HTML from that base page. So I could put like my nav bar in here and the base bootstrap in here. And that way I don't have to re-add those every time. And if I wanted to update them, I can update them in one location. They'd update everywhere. So that was a nice thing to set up. Yeah, that's pretty much this. And then I also use Git for this and GitHub. Let me pull. So I have everything in like a repo here. Also, interesting thing about Flask is it's very specific. You can't post pictures on your website unless they're in a folder named static. And same with no web page will load unless they're in a folder called templates. So it's kind of some standard formatting you have to do. And then the last thing I did was, let me pull this up. I'll enable it real quick. Overview, configure dynas. So the last thing I did was I configured it so that it would be up in Heroku. So, and I mainly did this just to see, because I've been talking to the other guys here, and Joe had mentioned that Azure has a upload process similar to like Heroku, where you could just push your Git repository and it'll work up there. So I was able to set this up. It says we apologize for something wrong because I don't have the full string in there, but I'll slap that in there just to show. Back. Copy. Make sure this is right. Oh. So yeah, there we go. But yeah, so I just wanted to see how pushing it to Heroku would be and getting that all set up so that once we were ready, if we wanted to go with it, I could just push straight to Azure and be ready to go. So yeah, that's that was my kind of mini project that I've been working on for a bit here.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
It's something like that's super simple, but is very useful. That's neat.
Yeah.
That's neat. You said like, so the tickets are submitted through email anyway, or at
Yep.
least the ticketing system exposes an email.
Yep. So there's a specific format, and if you send it in that format and fill in certain fields in that format, it will auto-populate the ticket. So our tickets, for example, have like a and I planned this from the very beginning, which is why I made 2 boxes here. But there's like a subject box, which is like a short description type box, and then there's like a full description box, and then you obviously have to have the person's like username and stuff. But yeah, you put them in the specific spots in that format, and it will create a ticket based off of an email. So I could, and what my plan was to make this generate an email to the service desk and also create a ticket. And if I really wanted to get fancy, I could have it create the ticket first and then attach the ticket ID number to the email that went to the service desk. But that seems a little bit more extensive. I haven't really even looked into that yet, but
So how does that reason for whitelist goes in the subject line, right?
Yep.
And then so how does the ticketing system know the site and the user ID?
So it's not on this page, but I'll just resubmit it again. So the user ID is always going to be, it's hard to see because I removed the email address. But for instance, it is its last name, first initial at hnicorp.com. So if I were to just truncate the email address, everything before the @ sign, that's the username. So I could do truncation in my code of that variable and then slap that in as the username that our ticketing system would be able to know how to find that user. So
nice.
Yep. Yeah. And then I also added, because there's a couple other things you could do. What happened? What did I do? I clicked on something. The other thing is, if you directly go to the whitelist page, it's only looking for a post request. So I wanted to add a 405 page for it, which is method not allowed, because going to the web page is trying to just do a get. So if you try to go to it with a get, it'll give you oops, something went wrong. Please close this window. And I also added one more, is if you go to /teapot, it says, how did you end up here with a teapot?
Nice.
It gives you status 418, I'm a teapot. So
it's a nice Easter egg.
Yep. I needed to add it. It was necessary.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I did all the design for the website was kind of something I just mocked off of a previous design I saw for Bootstrap. So I kind of just based it off of that, but input some of our own flair. I grabbed this picture from another thing I set up for H&I, and grab this image off their site or something. Yeah. Pretty proud of this, and especially how the email turned out. I'm really happy about. So yeah.
Okay.
Nice. So your next steps are Azure, you said?
Next steps are Azure, and then potentially, if I had to add one more, or if I wanted to add one more thing, the next thing I would add would be appending that ticket number into this email that went to the service desk. Would be a cool thing.
Oh, is that what you were saying about submitting the ticket first and then?
Yeah, like getting a
email.
response back. I don't know if it responds back or not, but if it did respond back with like a ticket number, I could like scrape that ticket number out of the email and then add it in here, something like that. Yeah, but I want to say the hardest thing from this project was getting this stupid screen to just fit on one screen and not have a scroll bar on the side, which I don't know why it was so difficult for me, but getting this to just sit on one static screen and not have a scroll bar was probably the most difficult part.
Now, does it have a scroll bar on the mobile version?
I don't know.
Man, they're gonna have to scroll down on their phone to see the teapot. Oh,
Yeah,
Wow.
right.
Well,
torture.
if you open up the developer tools, you can see.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's all you need.
Do it.
Do it.
Do it.
I did it already.
No, do the phone view on the right.
Yeah,
bottom right.
Oh, you want me to actually do that? Okay.
On the bottom right, the little phone icon.
Here.
There you go. And then
Oh
refresh.
yeah, it just
Yeah.
totally breaks.
Yeah.
Oof.
Well, that's also a tiny screen.
Yeah, what if
Do
you
something
click
wrong.
responsive up there and then go to like the iPhone, whatever, iPhone X.
iPhone X.
Ah, there you go.
There
That's
we go.
better.
Yeah, so I think the sizing actually, when it shrinks down to a certain size, it actually changes the height of this top bar, which then kind of throws off my code because it's a little jank. Not gonna lie, it's a little thrown together because I've had a short time to do this. But let me see what happens if I go.
Looks good.
I respect
Yeah.
the hustle. Don't think I'm hassling you here. But like whenever I'm doing stuff
Oh,
in
that looks good.
WordPress, oh, that's not terrible.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
that looks fine. I mean,
Yeah.
for literally a block page, like
Yeah.
it's not really.
Yeah, when
That's
I'm working in WordPress, that's one thing that I do all the time when I'm in the theme editor is like I'll switch back and forth between tablet, phone, desktop, and if I don't do that, I'll like get a slideshow that breaks on mobile or whatever.
You know,
Yeah.
all those people that use tablets.
I use a
Hey, I'm one
tablet.
of them. Yeah, what are you on about?
Actually, traditionally too, we don't really use the web proxy for mobile devices yet. So I guess that wasn't on the forefront of my mind, but that is a good thing to think about too, having some sort of mobile view for this.
Looks like you have your mobile view right now.
I mean,
yeah, I'd use
I mean,
clean this
kind
up
of.
a bit.
Yeah. Kind of.
Yeah.
All right, good stuff. I'm already pretty familiar with the project, but I'm sorry I'm coming in a little late here because someone brought pizza. Come to Makerspace Night IRL if you want pizza. We have very limited lab space, so like you won't get COVID. Or at least we're trying so that you don't get COVID. But now that I've had my pizza, how does this question that I meant to ask earlier when I compared it to Cisco Umbrella? Are there any features that Cisco Umbrella has that you have yet to implement for something like this? Is there untapped potential?
For as far as a block page goes, no, it's pretty much as featured of a block page, if not, no, it's actually probably more featured of a block page than Umbrella, I would say. Umbrella just has the ability to send out an email, but that email is it's not well formatted, I'll say. The format's plain text for those emails that go out and doesn't give a ton of information. This was actually from a different provider. This wasn't from Umbrella that generates this full get string. It was from a different proxy provider. But I could actually, the nice thing about this page and how I built it, if, for instance, we were to pick Umbrella for whatever reason as a proxy provider, all I would have to do would be change the values in my code of the get request and change the values here. And then this page will be fully functional for Umbrella as well as a custom page. So it's very easy to bolt this on to any pre-existing proxy as long as they send over to a custom block page with a GET request. So
That's solid. I'm all for reusability.
yep.
All right, so which one of you is next? Do I gotta start calling out names like an awkward middle school like substitute teacher?
I can go next. I had to dig through the archives to find this. Let me see which screen I want to share. Oh my god. All right, this looks like GitHub. Hey, you can see my screen?
Yeah, you're good, man.
Okay. Cool. So this is a project I made in 2016 and have not updated it since then. Well, I took the same ideas from this and moved them into other repos. But basically, this was a project that you'd feed it a bunch of sheet music files, music XML files, and it would create a knowledge graph of how it understood that music to work. So the simplest way of explaining it is basically I broke the music up into a sequence of states, then fed it into a thing that would be like, all right, here's the beginning. Then from the beginning, you can go into any of these number of states. And from each of those states, it goes into a different one. And there's probabilities with all of that, depending on how many times it's seen whatever state transitions. And one of the mistakes I made here was my approach to what counts as a state. I believe here it was I guess if I go to learn music, because this is where it started that from, but okay. So this would be the entry point into the code. It grabs a piece of music, tries to learn it, or it gets the stream, flattens it using this this music 21 library, which just a second. I think this create rhythm graph. Can I? Oh my God. GitHub lets you do cool things now. All right. So basically go through this flat stream of notes and other things and try to create this state machine of all the transitions related to from one note to the next, like, oh, it is going up this many half steps or going down this many half steps whenever notes follow each other. And then I tried this whole thing with rhythms, and it was interesting what it made. And all of this, oh man, all of these for loops and stuff, I think I could rewrite this whole thing in way fewer lines.
Say the line, Bart.
List comprehensions
There
were
it
something
is.
I didn't know about.
Yeah.
There it is.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's basically some of the worst looking Python code I've ever. Well, I guess these little small ones aren't bad, but anything like this where everything gets really complicated, oh my God,
That's some right-only code.
Oh yeah, like all of this stuff is horrendous.
That is not code I would take home to meet the family.
No, it's awful. But I do have a demo of one of the things it had generated at the hackathon in 2016, I believe. So I'll play that. I don't know if that audio comes through.
It doesn't.
It doesn't. Oh.
No, I don't know.
Oh.
You're one of those virtual audio drivers.
Yeah.
Or I think you need to share the app itself. Are you sharing like Chrome the app, or?
I think I'm just sharing a screen. Either way, like it made something that's you could follow it through and be like, oh, I see how it would start here and do these things, and then it would shift into weird keys because I didn't want to like have a concept of like, oh, this specific note follows this note. It's like each note in relation to the previous one. And basically what it did is
Oh, descend into madness.
yeah, very slowly would transition into different keys.
So
Yeah.
real quick, sharing audio with shared content, you're already sharing the screen,
Mhm.
but there's an extra step you have to take where in
Okay.
the bottom left corner there should be a button that says share sound.
Bottom
And
left corner.
yeah, let me get that in front of me so I know where it's at. It's probably that little caret that's next to the microphone, because that's all your sound options.
That little caret next to the microphone. Oh, I see.
Click on share in the bottom right corner. Begin sharing your devices up. Bottom right corner. Man,
Yeah,
pick
I'm
a
not.
side. All right, hold on. Sharing screen. Select the
Mhm.
program you wish to share. Click share
Oh.
sound.
All right, let me try this again. Let me share an application. All right. I think I'm now screen sharing differently.
Yep.
It might work. Who knows?
Okay. Nope, not seeing it. Oh, share computer sound. All right. I might be sharing computer sound now. Oh no.
It was never the sound. It was the audio.
No. It was playing on this side. Oh no. All right.
Well, now we're in real trouble.
Here we go. It's going to be way loud. Did you hear that? Okay, cool.
Yeah, that was the sound.
Yeah, you get the idea.
That's
Single high note.
That's absolutely horrifying. Why
It
aren't you
is.
working for Capcom yet?
Well, that was like what I wanted to make normal music, but by the time what I ended up with at the end basically made this really very interesting horrible music, and I kind of liked that more.
Who knew that horrible and horror music had so much in common?
Yeah.
All right, that was interesting. I feel like we should have had a headphone warning, but that's okay. I'll just live with one eardrum. All right. Well, is that all you've brought to show and tell?
That's all I brought to show and tell. Yeah. I had to dig that one out of I had to dig through a bunch of other abandoned GitHub projects to find that.
Oh man, we'd be here all night.
Gotta ask, what was the most difficult part of that for you, and what would you add if you had the chance or wanted to revisit it?
Well, the most difficult thing about that, and I did a lot of pre-planning prior to this hackathon. Like, I had this idea for a finite state-based music generating program, because like the basic idea is the same as I made some poetry generating app type thing that you feed it a bunch of text and it will learn certain patterns, and like those patterns are just based off one state to the next transitioning. And with text, I wouldn't say it's easy, because like the approach that I took with it, it's like you don't have any memory of like anything prior than the current state. So like with generating text, it's like it will kind of make sense with each word next to each other, but on the whole it doesn't make any sense. But like, oh yeah, that word does make sense that it would follow that one. And similarly to this, it's like you'd have these states of notes that's like, okay, this melody sounds normal for about 5 notes, and then it does some weird stuff, and then it kind of sounds normal again. I don't know. The hardest thing about that is figuring out how to represent the states for music as a a sequence of states. Yeah, that's just hard. I don't know that it really works, especially if you're doing like polyphony where you have multiple notes happening at the same time.
Yeah.
Like what is the state of these like this bass note and this note in this other instrument happening at the same time? Is that a chord? Okay, then what about like any of the other notes that happen where they're not necessarily being played at the same time? Like how do you treat them all as different streams or different sequences? And then if you do, how do you generate sequences and layer them on top of each other? It's I don't have a good answer for it. I think it's interesting. I want to play around with it more.
All right, and this is a question that borders more on the philosophical. So if you don't want to give me a real answer, that's completely understandable. But I feel it's a question that goes through people's minds when talking about like computer generated music. Do you think that music made by an algorithm has less intrinsic value than those made by people?
I mean wait, so does it have less intrinsic value?
Yeah,
I don't
like
know.
would you value it less?
I don't know. I mean, if it sounds good or it sounds interesting, it's interesting. It doesn't really matter how you made it or how it was made, I think.
All right, so it's more like up to interpretation then. Like if you
I mean,
enjoy it, who cares who made it?
I mean that's on you. Like if if that matters, if that factors into like enjoying something, that's fine.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think there's a lot of very interesting things um some of the Google stuff where they do stuff to generate music or whatever. It's like it will be, or like the data bots thing where they give it a bunch of examples of music or whatever, and then using machine learning or whatever, it just generates a continuous stream of music in a certain style, and they have a YouTube stream that's just continuously going. I mean, I think most of that stuff sounds interesting for a short period of time, but I don't think it's like I wouldn't say with where it's at that it's like, oh yeah, that would replace me wanting to listen to music made by people. It's just it's a different interesting thing.
Understandable. Again, that's a question that can have so many answers, and not all of them are wrong. Not all of them are, I don't know. Depends on what your version of correct is, but it's all about how hard you want to argue it.
Yeah.
Here's a more philosophical question: is music good?
No, it definitely isn't.
Yeah, that's my opinion too.
Depends on whose music it is, but yeah.
Nope, all music is bad.
You know, I tried this thing called free speech. Didn't work out for me, so I don't like free speech anymore. Music is next in the chopping block.
Yep.
All right. I'm gonna pick on Ryan because he's been here like since the beginning, and I haven't heard from him since like I asked how his day was, or he asked how my day was. So Ryan, are you still alive?
I am still alive. Fun fact, I have never been to a hackathon, and I just started programming last January. Ralph came in, I think, and like threatened us if we didn't go to the hackathon, but I had just written hello world in C++, and I was like, that's a lot. And I couldn't get off work for the weekend, and he said to quit my job.
Very fair.
So I actually didn't know that the Zoom call was supposed to be people that had something to present, admittedly, because I do not.
Oh no, anyone's welcome. Like if you have anything to present, that works too, like Wes did. But if you just want to talk about cool projects or whatever, that also works.
Honestly,
we're pretty open format here. Open forum is the correct way. We don't require you to contribute anything. You can just vibe.
Yeah, my main motivation, honestly, for being here on it is I genuinely have no idea what I'm going to do for HackYSU 21 at all. So I was just coming here for inspiration, honestly. How do you guys like get these ideas?
Oh,
Where did they
Andrew,
come from?
show
Sleep
him the bot.
deprivation. Oh, okay. So let me show you something that might help. I got a bot here that will give you a hackathon idea, and it'll even tell you which languages you should write it in. So let me get that going here. All right. And then I also have another thing I could demo as well, but I don't want to hijack Ryan's thing here. I'm gonna do a little.
Oh, you're good. There's nothing to hijack.
Okay. Let's get a server started. Sorry, there's a dog in the background that's crying. So I have this. Joe and I actually made this. I don't know if Chris was around there then, but we made this at Revolution UC.
I was not there.
Gotcha. We made this at Revolution UC in 2015, and it's a hackathon idea generator. Basically, you come down. Oh my God, that's so loud! And it says like you will create something, 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 a something, something using these two languages, and then boom, create a Kerpludge cross-platform Mayo app. I don't even think Mayo is still around. And then Valizer, a backend game using UI Lang and Bottle. And Cytocom, a big data game using Flask and Facebook APIs. So, you know, come in here and then you get your hackathon idea.
That's beautiful. And I'm sure I'm not the only one that could use something like that.
An immersive Chrome app, whatever that means.
Oh, I like my Chrome apps to be very immersive.
I think I came in here. So this uses what do you call them? Markov chains or something like that. It's been a while, but I came in here one time. I think it was a few days ago, and I just kind of clicked this a bunch of times, and it literally said you will create jQuery, and like using something else, like
Yep.
JQS wiki, and all this tech is like outdated, but it's here. Yeah.
Yeah.
Java.
Please no. Yeah, for me at least, I know like I guess not specifically hackathons. Maybe not specifically hackathons, but for me, when I'm trying to come up with like an idea for something to make, it's usually sparked by a problems like that I have, or like for instance, my app that I built, this blog page, was because one of the vendors we were looking at didn't have an email form. So it's like, you know what, I might be able to make one. It's like that might be a fun thing to do, or like just thinking of problems that you have day to day that some sort of application or something might fix, or maybe even a game of some sort. Just like, hey, this would be a cool idea, fun game. I know.
Yeah, go on.
I was gonna say, I know Palmer and them. I don't know if it was it a hackathon where you made the holler baller?
Yeah.
Or,
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Me
But like,
and, Chris Hatch.
yeah, you want to talk about that a bit, like where your inspiration was, I guess.
I don't have any pictures from. I think there's one screenshot that exists on the internet from that. Let me see. Holler baller. Bag of grapes. That was our team name.
Good team name.
Yeah. Oh man, I just want a screenshot. All right. I don't see any screenshots from this game. Anyways, so me and Chris Hatch and another friend who I don't remember who it was, Dylan. We went to a game jam in Pittsburgh. Yeah, it was in Pittsburgh. Global Game Jam. We made Holler Baller, which is basically Rocket League, but you play as like this walking around guy, and the game is sound activated. So you yell into your microphone and it makes like these waves that come out of your face that you hit the ball with, and you're trying to hit the ball into the opponent's goal. And that's pretty much it. It's oh yeah, and it was like multiplayer networked game that the server for it just hardly worked. It worked long enough for a tech demo when we'd get like two people in the chairs playing and they're both screaming at their computers at the demo day at the end of the hackathon, and a giant crowd naturally just forms around where there's two people just yelling and making bizarre noises. So it basically marketed itself, and we ended up getting the technical excellence award or something because we had made a networked multiplayer game. Yeah, the we were literally just streaming UDP packets over like a very small server that basically would just say, where do you think the ball is? Where do you think the ball is? Okay, that's where the ball is. Like whichever one I heard most recently is where I'm going to tell everyone the ball is from now on.
Back to my back to the question. It's like, yeah, it's like something like this is just like a random idea that popped into one of their heads, and there's like, it'd be funny, like a game where you're yelling at your computer to like hit a ball around. It's just like sometimes a lot of these hackathon projects are just like a random idea that comes up that you think is funny or could be helpful, or you have a problem, and that's, I guess, what, I don't know about you guys, but for me, that's definitely what my inspiration is when doing projects like this.
Oh yeah, and currently I've been thinking about looking into the Blackmagic Design Bluetooth API to like make an app to control my camera, because the Android app that's out there kind of doesn't work. So there's probably a reason. I'm gonna hopefully find out before I spend too much time on it.
Yeah, and Blackmagic is like a camera brand, right? Or like
Yep.
So they make a bunch of different camera bodies.
Yeah, and apparently they have a relatively open API for this, but I don't know.
Another thing that you can do, these are great approaches, and if you want like a more direct way of finding inspiration, like literally seeing what other people are doing always helps. Don't know if that was covered. I've been in and out, but a lot of the ideas that I get from the Raspberry Pi projects that I do are because I'm in Facebook groups about, Raspberry Pi and the projects that people make. I'm also in groups about like PC building, and I see like some crazy water loop builds and stuff like that. So being a part of a community, an active community, I should clarify, forums from 2007 are not going to be good for inspiration, but active Facebook groups and student organizations like the one that you're in, organizations like Code Youngstown, those are great places to like have exposure to other people's projects. And it's perfectly fine to go, that's great, but I can do it a different way. Here's my implementation. And that's primarily how I get my inspiration for projects. I see someone else do a variation of it and go, this is cool, but how about this?
Yeah, definitely, like enhancing someone else's project could be something too, like not starting from scratch and using something else as a base, maybe.
And people are usually really flattered that you want to, make something like theirs. There are a couple people that where if they ask you to sign NDA, run. And but normally, like in the DIY community, people are like, yeah, here's my code, here's my schematic, here's everything I did to put this together. I'm not selling it or making any money, so why don't you try and learn from it, And having that kind of support system is really helpful for not just finding inspiration, but learning how to act on that inspiration.
Hey,
Well, I
Jarvis,
would definitely appreciate the whatever Facebook groups you find most inspirational.
Sure. Just let me know what you're into because they are very niche. Like I am in groups that I probably shouldn't say on a live stream, but it's mostly memes, like memes about one very specific thing. And then I'm in my constructive groups like Raspberry Pi.
What you're
But
supposed to say is the Oak Hill Collaborative Facebook page has a lot
oh
of
yeah,
starting ideas.
the Oak Hill Makerspace page has wonderful opportunities for collaboration, project building, and networking. Go like it today at www. All right, Joe, you like I've been seeing some back channel activity saying that you got something working. Do you wanna share that with us?
I don't know if I can share it because it's work stuff.
Oh, okay. All I
Yeah.
had to go off of was a name. I didn't know it was work related. My bad.
No, no problem. Well, I could talk about it really quick. So I'm working on basically exactly what's described on the video on the Recoil.js site. So when you work with React on the front end, you start working on like here. I can just share my screen. That'll make it easier. I don't want to share me. Okay. Can you all see my screen?
Yes.
Cool. Okay, so there's this video
Hey, folks, thanks for
because you
tuning in.
totally just want to see someone else's video. Oh, I can't
I
make
want-
it any bigger.
I want you to play a YouTube video for me, Joe.
I'm doing my best. So
I had a class like this once.
so there's a problem in React that state goes through other components. So let's say that you have like a website, right? And you log into that website and your username needs to appear in like 10 different places across the website. Every time that username changes, it needs to change everywhere on the site and basically refresh the entire page, which is not what you want. You just want the places where your name shows up to refresh. And in React, there's a bunch of different solutions to that. Some people say use React context. Some people say use like a global state thing like Redux. And in May of 2020, Facebook released this little experimental library called Recoil that deals with the same thing. And it kind of is a wrapper around React context so that you can do, just kind of shows you some examples. Yeah, so this is what it would look like if it was React context, where you just have a bunch of contexts and that's how they, like you would change these nodes directly. So this is what they're trying to get to, where there is it can generate its own contexts and just change the parts of the UI that need changed, even though all of the UI has access to that context. I know that doesn't make too much sense, but basically the example here is that there we go. Let's say that this is like a drawing program, and you can draw boxes in this canvas here. And traditionally, what you did is you'd have like a state, and it would determine where all these boxes are. So every time one box moves, it would refresh this entire page and refresh all the boxes, and that's really slow. So Recoil lets you just change, if you could see the yellow parts. So if you change like the X and Y of the selected box, only the selected box changes and the information relating to that one specific box. So you can see how this can make it way faster because you only have to change the one thing. And the funny part is when this came out, I was dealing with literally this problem where at Bridge we have drawing software where we draw boxes on images and label them. And every time you draw, it would refresh the entire thing and make it super duper slow. So it was kind of funny me watching this and going, well, this is exactly what I need, but I haven't had the chance to integrate it until today. And I finally got it working and it's really, really fast. And that's what I was doing today. The end. Nice.
It looks really cool. It looks
It looks
interesting.
hip.
Yeah,
It
this
so
is
hip.
trending.
What type of increases in speed do you think would come from this, like implementing something like this over like the legacy way of refreshing the entire page?
Um, it's one of those things where instead of having like it the amount of time it takes to load being relative to the number of things that need to load, it's no longer relative to the number of things you need to load.
Yep.
So I was experiencing, so I was loading 100 boxes on a page, and every time you change one, it would update all of them. I think it was actually 300 boxes. So that was taking about 500 milliseconds, and now it's taking less than 50 milliseconds. So at least 10x at that
Nice.
level. And I assume that as you have hundreds of boxes, like as you add more and more boxes, it should stay at about the same amount of loading time, because it doesn't affect the other boxes, if that makes sense.
Yeah. What about server utilization? I'm sure that goes way down too, because it doesn't have to reload everything on the page, right? Like back end server utilization, something like that.
That's kind of disconnected. You can do in most React systems, you know where you're doing the change. So I would say the visual representations of the change and like the sending and receiving of the change to the server are kind of disconnected. So you will normally not see a difference there if your API is like sane.
Yep. Yeah, definitely though. I know obviously load optimization is probably huge for web development. Like load time optimization.
It's hard. Like when you're doing, for example, when I was doing the Star Wars site, this loads like almost instantly. Like that was a shift refresh. It's it doesn't even disappear because it's all like one page. And when you start adding like React complexity, it gets progressively slower. They say that the amount of load time directly influences like how much people buy items on websites and stuff like that. For the things that we're doing, which is like, or the use case for this specific thing, it's like labeling images, and the faster people can label images more accurately, the better. Like we can pay people less to label, and there's less mistakes because it takes less time, so they're not as like exhausted. So it does pay dividends in a lot of different ways to have quick loading. Yeah. It's not a hackathon project, but this is the thing I'm excited about right now.
Oh, that's cool.
That's what I'm glad to hear. You got to be excited to make these things, otherwise you don't like doing it. All right, I think we've all had a hearty earful of all of the hackathon projects of old, and I think we even inspired someone to start another one all over again. So I consider this Makerspace Night Online a total success.
Yeah, I'm gonna force Jarvis to pick that project back up. So.
Yep.
Yeah, like but put his arm behind his back. You gotta.
Yep.
And I'll see about getting my code from DevPost, but I haven't been on that account in 5 years, so I have an Arduino. I have all the lights, the breadboard, and the know-how. I just need that code, man.
All right.
Well, thank you all for being a part of this. Unless there's anything else anyone wants to talk about, I'm cool to end it right here.
I think I'm good from my point of view.
Yep.
Awesome. Again, thank you all for coming, and thank everyone else for watching. I'm sure we have a captive audience now that we're posting on the page. And this is, from what I can tell, the last Wednesday every month. I don't know how long I'm going to do this for, but IRL Makerspace Night is every Wednesday. and we have people in the multimedia lab right now, like figuring out radio show shenanigans.
He's live.
Yeah, he's online.
He's live.
Oh, that's cool. So yeah, if you want to come check that out every Wednesday from like 4 to 9.
UK. He's live right now.
Right. All right. You guys have a good night. I'm gonna go ahead and stop it here.
Yep, you guys too. Thanks. See ya.
Yeah.
Yep. Bye bye.